I'm Sam.
And this is Gabe.
And this is Coaster Wars.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the only podcast that takes two coasters and pits them against each other. However, we're back! How long has it been? Oh, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a hot second since we've even sat down and recorded, my goodness.
Oh, for sure. But the winter season is upon us. Parks are slowly but surely entering their Winterfest, which is the tail end of the season for the operating year. And we have some changes to announce, as well as just, it's time to talk about some more roller coasters. What do you think?
Oh, heck yeah. I haven't been on one in a good long while, which for us, a good long while is quite a couple months. So you know what? Best next thing is to just sit down and talk about them. And Gabe's like the only person on the planet that I can just sit and gush about roller coasters for a couple hours with. So that's what we're going to do.
Oh, for sure. First things first, I want to talk about some of the changes we're looking at doing to the podcast. We want to expand the podcast a little bit, open up the envelope of what our podcast is. I know we've been pretty hyper-focused on pitting one coaster next to each other and kind of comparing and contrasting. And we're still going to do that. So don't worry, that's not going away.
No.
But we want to add some few things just to kind of expand our content repertoire. And also, we are planning a Winterfest trip literally a week from now. So that'll be fun as well.
Oh, yeah. basically what this is me and Gabe, part of this is we're also going to change to a seasons format. So instead of getting episodes all year long, we found that for me and Gabe personally, it's very hard to sit down and record in the summer months. So we do a lot of things, not just coaster trips, when we have time off, and that's normally when we record. We find that when it's cold and you want to stay inside, we don't do as much outside. So basically, we're going to have we're going to go to a seasons format. The season will basically start around now. It'll start mid-November. And as Gabe said, that's when holiday events start. The parks start closing down and aren't going to be open as often or as long. And it'll kind of run through maybe April, May. We kind of haven't decided on an end date yet. And then we'll take off for the summer. We'll ride some more coasters. We'll have more vacation time and stuff like that, and then we'll be back the following year.
I'm thinking in the summer would be a good time to follow some of our social media accounts. We have an Instagram, right?
Yes.
So follow our Instagram. I want to make a TikTok specifically for our Coaster Wars podcast as well. And that's where you're going to want to see if you want to continue to follow us and see our content and see what we're up to and what we're doing and what parks we're going to during the summer while we're really busy. We're not really recording the podcast. You can follow our social medias as well, and you'll see some more updates. And so the social media stuff is kind of going to slow down now because, well, we haven't posted anything anyway, but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying, though, is that in the summertime when we're not releasing episodes of the podcast, if you still want to follow us and see what we're doing, our Instagram, and then I'll make sure that if I create a TikTok, that'll be linked in our podcast at some point. Just so you guys can keep following us and seeing where we're all going.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a great idea, too, because TikTok's just a couple minute episode or video is a lot easier to sit down and edit than a whole 30, 45 minute to an hour long podcast. It takes me a while to edit these guys.
That's the other thing, too, is just the sit down time just to edit it and, create these episodes for you guys. It takes a lot of time out of our days. So,
but yeah, so it's a little bit of a change to the format of our podcast that'll basically be able to give you guys more consistent content when we are putting it out, but also make our lives just a tad bit easier. So
yes,
but with that, the kind of changes in our podcast and stuff, what we're going to do for the rest of this episode is just kind of talk about general roller coaster news, because a big thing just happened, and Gabe will talk about that later.
Very, very big.
Very big thing.
Huge.
And then we're also going to talk about the merger with Six Flags and Cedar Fair, which is also very big for the American roller coaster scene. So why don't you take it away, Gabe?
Well, real quick, I just want to talk about our episode changes as well.
Oh, okay.
Just the
Sorry.
different, yes. So not only are we going to be doing what I call like our traditional battle episodes, coaster battle episodes, we're going to be adding Coasters 101. I know we kind of started it a little bit in the last season that we got doing, but we weren't very organized with it. It was just kind of thrown in there.
Yeah.
So more Coasters 101 episodes. That's going to be about like the roller coaster manufacturers, ride forces, just general roller coaster information, especially for like if you're not a insane roller coaster enthusiast like we are. Some of the stuff we
Yep.
might be talking about, you'd be like, huh? So just kind of explaining that. We're going to bring back our question everything style of episode. I don't know. I actually really enjoyed them. I do know the people that listen to our podcast that we are family with and stuff, they really enjoyed those episodes. So we're going to be bringing those back, and that's going to be the style of episode where Sam brings me a bunch of random questions, and I have to answer them with no internet access or no computer access. So those are always very fun.
Oh yeah, as a quick side note to that, I know we don't have too many listeners that aren't family member, but if you're out there and you exist, and I believe that you do, send us questions. That's another thing too, is it would be a really great way to interact with us if you sent us either questions in our social medias or at the email, which is linked in every single episode. I will pose those to Gabe. I don't care what they are. And that's the other thing, is there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know what a roller coaster is, send me the question and I'll ask Gabe and I'll make him explain it to us.
Yes. And then last but not least, we are going to be adding what I call trip talks. So that will be after we do, especially at the end of the year, we can talk about all the different trips we did. Those are going to be more park specific. So if you're looking for, instead of just like two random coasters that we pick out and, battle against each other, that'll be a slew of roller coasters all at one park. Or it'll be an entire trip. So like this next trip that we're taking, our Winterfest trip, we're going to Carowinds, we're going to Six Flags Over Georgia, and we're going to make it to Fun Spot Atlanta to ride Air Force One for the first time. Obviously, I've already been to Carowinds, but Sam has not.
Nope.
Very exciting. But I didn't get any night rides on Fury while I was there, and we're going to get a ton of night rides on Fury, a ton of night rides on some of the other roller coasters that are there. And so that's going to be a fun trip, and we'll do an entire episode just on that trip. That's what we call our trip talks. And that'll be a very fun style of episode just to talk about more roller coasters in one episode.
So as you can see, we've got kind of a lot of different categories coming. And I think what this does is help organize our podcast a little bit. Previously, anytime we weren't kind of doing a battles episode, I just kind of labeled everything a special episode. But now we'll kind of have a couple different series going, and it'll be like, so like Gabe said, if it's Coasters 101, this is going to be like basic coaster information. If it's Trip Talks, we're going to be talking about different parks that we physically have been to, and so on and so forth with some of our episodes. So it'll be a little bit more organized for you guys.
Yes. I think what it'll do is it expands our podcast a little bit more. You get to hear more about different kinds of roller coasters and stuff, and it kind of, I don't know, I think it'll make it more interesting. That's just me, but we'll see.
Well, I agree with you. And then on top of that, like we said, a lot of our family members are listeners, and specifically our mom has told us she's want us to go into more depth on the different parks that we've been to or parks that are out there. And honestly, this could even just be like, even if you're not huge into roller coasters in general or something, but maybe you live near a park and you've never been there and you want to hear our opinion on it, you will get our unfiltered opinion. If we think it's a crappy park, we'll tell you. We have no qualms talking about
yes. That's definitely one thing that will not be changing about our podcast. Unedited, unfiltered, uncut content.
Yes.
We record these basically in one shot, and we don't filter what we say. If we say it's a bad roller coaster, we're gonna say it. So
exactly. So
definitely that is one thing will not be changing.
All right. Is that all for updates to the podcast in episodes?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So I'm going to let Gabe kind of take it away. I was telling him before, this is probably going to be a little bit more him talking and me just giving my opinion, because one of these things he actually told me about. I didn't even know what was happening. So Gabe, pick wherever you want to start and let's get going.
Yeah, so I think first things first, we got to talk about the merger. The merger happened over the summer. It's official. Six Flags and Cedar Fair are now one massive entertainment corporation called the Six Flags Entertainment Corporation. And now we're finally starting to see how that's going to affect all of these parks and stuff, because what kind of the biggest issue that I'm seeing so far is you now have basically 4 major parks in the chain that need investments constantly throughout the year. You have the Six Flags Magic Mountain location, which is one of Six Flags major roller coaster parks. You have Six Flags Great America, the Chicago area. Then you have Cedar Point from the Cedar Fair chain, and Cedar Point needs additions every year. I mean, it's the roller coaster capital of the world. Let's be honest here, right?
Yep.
And then you have Six Flags Great Adventure. Now, the reason I mentioned Six Flags Great Adventure last is because it seems like, to me, they're the ones that are getting shafted in this merger, because they are losing 2 major roller coasters in their park, and one of them is King Ka, unfortunately. And if you're living under a rock, you may not know by now, but yes, they are taking out King Ka. It's official. They finally announced it. It became official on their side as well as on RCDB. It is now listed as standing but not operating.
gosh.
Very unfortunate, very unfortunate. But they're also losing Green Lantern, and now, depending on your opinion of Green Lantern, some people are really happy about it. I'm slightly disappointed because I thought it was a very good roller coaster. But there still might be a future for Green Lantern. That's the one nice thing about having all of these different parks, is they may be able to move that specific coaster to a different park, because it wasn't originally constructed at Great Adventure. I don't know if you knew that or not, Sam.
I did not. So remind me again. Remind me which coaster Green Lantern is. That the stand-up B&M?
Yes, that's the stand-up B&M. Okay. It was not originally constructed at Six Flags Great Adventure. It was originally a Kentucky Kingdom roller coaster back when Kentucky Kingdom was part of the Six Flags chain. But when Six Flags shut down the park, they moved a lot of the major roller coasters out of Kentucky Kingdom, and then Kentucky Kingdom was bought out and reopened. So it could be moved again. What I would really like to see is like Green Lantern go to one of the really small parks in the chain that doesn't have a lot of new rides, and then they should just put sit-down trains on it. Because they've done that with like Rougarou and stuff like that too. So they could just put sit-down trains on it, move it to a different park, rename it, repaint it, basically spruce it up, make it look nice. And it would be a really good fit, like a Michigan's Adventure, where they only have like 2 steel coasters, or a Valley Fair out in Minnesota that hasn't seen a new coaster in like 20 years, or like a Dorney Park, or you know what I'm saying? Like it would be a standout coaster at a lot of different parks. So I hope Green Lantern still has a future. Has a great layout. I don't think that's the issue. It's the trains.
If me and Gabe covered this ride when we talked, did we cover this did we do a whole episode on Six Flags Great Adventure when we went there?
I don't know if we did or not. I know I did some stuff on my YouTube channel back when I had my YouTube channel.
So I feel like we have talked about this, but the whole thing is we went to Great Adventure, obviously, to ride King Ka, and then that's where El Toro is, right?
Yes, El Toro and King Ka.
So those were the 2 that we went there to ride. And of course, I personally have ridden Iron Wolf, which was another B&M stand-up that's absolutely horrendous when I rode it. So, and of course, everyone said that they disliked it. So we were like going into it with hesitant steps, and we got off and we're like, well, that was actually not a bad coaster. And it was not even more than that. It was good for a stand-up coaster. Like I didn't have the headbanging effect. So it is for us personally. We're like, well, that was a good coaster. It's sad to see it go. And we only rode it once, I think, when we were there.
We rode it, only rode it once. I think we ended up riding it again just because we did like it. it has a great layout. A lot of the issues that people have with the Green Lantern coaster is the stand-up trains. The old-style stand-up trains tend to develop a lot of head banging, and basically what that is your head restraint, is your head bouncing in the restraint really aggressively. And for shorter people, I can totally see how that would be an issue. Usually taller people can still ride it somewhat comfortably without it. But the layout itself, I thought was really, really good. It was a very forceful coaster for a B&M. And I thought it was really enjoyable. I really did. So for me to see Green Lantern go, I'm sad about it. To be honest with you, I was really disappointed. But obviously, Kingda Ka closing is a major, major thing. My biggest issue with the closure, and you can talk on this a little bit too on your side of it, they didn't officially announce anything. And that's what upset me about it, is because if they would have, like, let's say they were like, hey, we're going to close this at the end of the 2025 operating season. You have a year left to ride it. We'd be going out there to ride it. Like, there'd be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when I found out that they were potentially closing it, it was already too late for me and you, because like, we have lives, we work, we had, financially it wasn't a thing that we could do. It was just like, well, I guess it's a good thing we wrote it when we did. And then that's how I felt about it. I was pretty upset that they didn't give anybody like an official warning that, hey, this coaster is no longer running at the end of the year. And that's what upset me about it.
I 100% agree. There's not too many coasters left, and almost anything left like a Kingda Ka left. They've redone Top Thrill. So and I know it's sort of a similar concept, but it's not the same thing. And Gabe loved Kingda Ka. Where did that sit on your top 15, Gabe?
I think I slotted it in at 14.
Yeah.
But when I rode Ka, I actually preferred Ka over the original Top Thrill. I know you had the opposite opinion than I did, but I really, really loved the launch on Ka. I thought it was more extreme because it was a little bit rougher. But that's kind of why I liked it over like a Top Thrill, the original Top Thrill. But it's just, there's so many fans of this coaster, and being the world's tallest coaster, technically it still is. It was just kind of very upsetting for me for them to just be like, yeah, we're going to close it, but we're not going to tell anybody.
Yeah. I do 100% agree with you. There should have been some kind of warning or something. And then purely from a business standpoint, if they'd told people they were closing Kingda Ka, the tallest roller coaster in the world, at the end of the 2025 season, you know how many people would have flocked to this park to get a ride on it before it closed?
I mean, a lot of enthusiasts did on the last weekend. The problem is they could have had that all year round. If they, at the beginning of the year, announced it, or like I said, announced that it was closing at the end of next year, they could have had a whole year of people flocking to the park to get their last rides on Ka. I'm saying it's for the people that don't have the money to just be like up and take a weekend and go, we got to fly out there and go ride it. Because like I said, for us, it just wasn't a possibility.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's thousands of people that thought the same thing. There's no possible way for me to get out and ride this thing, and we're really, really disappointed they couldn't get their final rides on it. However, I will say this. I think Kingda Ka was in really bad shape. I really do. I think that had a lot of influence on it. So from what I understand, listening to some of the major content creators in the coaster world, like Coaster Studios and El Toro Ryan, basically that if this was an accelerated closure, that they were originally thinking of keeping it open for like one more year. And then as these talks continued about closing the two roller coasters down, that Kingda Ka got kind of pushed into the window of, oh wait, we might be closing it this year, not next year. So I think that had something to do with it. That was not the original plan. I really don't think that was the original plan to close it at the end of this year. So I think that had something to do with it. I think, here's the thing. So Kingda Ka, the difference between Kingda Ka and Top Thrill was maintained by the Cedar Fair chain, and Kingda Ka was maintained by the Six Flags chain. And that's the biggest difference between the two, was that I think Kingda Ka was in a lot worse shape than they originally anticipated. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Because let's be honest, even
If anyone's heard us talk at all, we always talk about the maintenance issues that exist at Six Flags parks.
oh, for sure. And even when me and you were there, was that last year we went? It was closed for what, half the day before we even got on it?
Yeah, that might have even been 2 years ago. So, yeah. And basically, if anyone's ever been to a Six Flags park, you know that you can download the app and it usually, well, actually, now that I think about it, we got the Flash Pass. So, on the Flash Pass app where you select what ride you want to ride, it has all the ones that are open or closed. It even has wait times and stuff for you. But basically, we were fighting all day. At one point it said that it was open and we're like, all right, we're gonna ride this ride and then go over there. And then when we got over there, it was closed again. So we're like, it does not matter what line we're in, what ride we're trying to ride, we are booking it over there because we want to try and get a ride on it. And so yeah, Gibbs, it was difficult while we were there to get a ride on it.
For sure. And then they were showing it at one point, like Coaster Studio was there, so they got their last rides on it, and I watched their YouTube video. And shout out to them, by the way, for even announcing that this thing was going to close, because like people did not know. I mean, really did not know. And then the rumors started coming out, and then Coaster Studios made their video on it. And shout out to them. Like, I'm glad that they set, because they got a lot of, I don't know, you probably didn't see that either, but they got a lot of hate for that. Basically, people were saying, oh, you're falsifying these rumors to get views and this and that and the other thing. And no, they truly did a service to the roller coaster community, because without them, I don't know if that rumor would have truly gotten spread the way it did. And I don't know if people would have believed it as much without them coming out and saying, hey, no, guys, this thing is actually closing. Like,
yeah.
So shout out to Coaster Studios. Like I said, I know they get a lot of hate sometimes, but I really enjoy their content. And they did everybody a service talking about Kingda Ka closing, I think. But yeah, I really truly think that Kingda Ka was in bad shape. And because that's the other thing too, is people were talking about, oh, they might be converting it. They might giving it the Top Thrill 2 treatment. And there's two issues with that. Number one, it's not happening. I'm sorry, it's just not. Because Cedar Fair now is kind of running things. And I think they saw how the Top Thrill redo went, and that was very unsuccessful in its first year as well. But here's my argument is, now with Kingda Ka closing, Top Thrill becomes the tallest, fastest roller coaster in North America. And I think they're going to want to keep that title at Cedar Point, because that's basically the flagship park of the entire chain now.
Oh, yeah.
I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I could be 100% wrong on it, but I don't foresee them redoing it the same way. Also, the fact that Green Lantern is also leaving the park leads me to believe they're going to use that entire land area to create one massive ride experience. Or two really good ride experiences, which is what I would prefer. Take 2 coasters out, put 2 coasters in. But yeah, I don't think the coaster of Kingda Ka has the capability of being redone. I think it's in worse shape than what Top Thrill was when they closed that down. And I don't know if it's even possible to fix it to the point where they could run it for like another 10, 15 years with new trains and an extended layout. So unfortunately, it's just going. And according to the permits that they have filed for the state of New Jersey, that it sounds like they are tearing the roller coaster down. But they do have plans. They do have plans to replace it, and they're releasing a new coaster in 2026. Nobody knows anything about it. So other than it's going to be a multi-launch coaster. That's all anybody knows.
Okay.
So
that's the thing with putting in a new coaster. We talked about this a little bit with Cedar Point, because Cedar Point exists on an island. They're kind of working with very limited space. And when Top Thrill closed down, we're like, it would be nice to put something new there. But Top Thrill and as well Kingda Ka have like a weird footprint. So there's not, you have to really like finagle a new coaster in there.
A very long and a very narrow footprint.
Yes. So getting rid of Green Lantern as well next to it gives them a whole bunch more real estate to work with
Well,
to put in something new.
the other thing too is they have the Rolling Thunder plot of land that nothing is built on,
Oh
which is right
yeah.
next to King Ka and El Toro. It's because
Okay.
the Rolling Thunder land is like in between King Ka and El Toro. So
Yes.
taking out King Ka and Green Lantern and having the Rolling Thunder plot of land, they have a massive area for expansion. And I think that is going to lead to a lot of future investment in Great Adventure. The problem is you got to kind of rip that Band-Aid off first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of, and that's where I think, where I said at the beginning of the episode, they're kind of getting shafted. Well, that might not be 100% true in the long run, but in the short term, they're losing the best 1-2 punch in the Six Flags change, which was King Ka and El Toro.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
And then they're losing the capacity of a Green Lantern. And
yep.
although they are gaining a roller coaster next year with the Flash coaster that was supposed to open this year. I mean, Great Adventure, I'm sorry, but this has been a mess for you guys for the last year. Like, what is going on out there in New Jersey, man?
Right?
But this is kind of going to lead back into the whole merger thing. I unfortunately think this is going to hurt a lot of the small parks in the future, because you're seeing, like, Great America is getting a new roller coaster for next year. Great Adventure is seeing, like, for sure future investment. Cedar Point is getting a new roller coaster for next year. So you're going to see a lot of the bigger parks, I think, get more roller coasters, but the smaller parks are kind of going to be left to fend for themselves a little bit, I think. I hope not. Like, I hope you see investment at every park. But unfortunately, when you basically double your inventory, when you merge these two chains together, there's going to be a lot of times where there's going to be like, well, we only have so much money, and some of these smaller parks, some of these lesser visited parks are just going to see less investment, I think. But I could be wrong, so I hope not. I think you're going to see some park closures in the future too, unfortunately, especially when you see, like, where you had like a Cedar Fair park and a Six Flags park really close together. You're going to might see, like, the one shut down, the one that's less profitable be closed. I do think there's some good things coming out of the merger, though. Number one, I hope that the Cedar Fair maintenance plan makes it over to the other parks.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I hope.
Go ahead.
I hope that you see the best of both worlds come out of this. So, like, Six Flags, what was Six Flags really good at? Creating really interesting, unique ride experiences, but investing in new rides every year. Even if it wasn't roller coasters, they were still putting a new ride in most of their parks every year, whether it was a flat ride, a family ride, or a roller coaster. You were still seeing that development. Where Cedar Fair was a little bit more slow to do that style of investment, right? The other thing that you gain with the Six Flags change is you gain some of the theming, like you gain the DC theming, you gain some of that stuff. So you gain some theming aspects to it that you can create, more interesting ride experiences, full ride experiences, not just a roller coaster.
Oh yeah.
So I think you'll see some of that. What was Cedar Fair good at? Well, ride maintenance. I mean, number one, definitely, they keep their parks clean, they keep them tidy, and they keep them running at full capacity.
I'm going to plug right here. Another thing we loved about Cedar Fair's maintenance is they also released a schedule of their maintenance. So Gabe could literally go in and look up what rides were going to be open and what rides were going to be down from a maintenance perspective. So we knew when to go to these parks if we wanted to ride certain rides or just get a ride on everything.
And then the other thing I hope that comes over from the Cedar Fair parks to the Six Flags parks is their food. Six Flags needs to up their food game, honest to gosh.
Yes.
But so I hope that kind of transfers over. And then just the just the overall park experience, Cedar Fair has always been a little bit better at. I think personally,
yeah.
just from the time you walk into the gate to the time you walk out, I've always had a little bit better times at Cedar Fair. So I hope that kind of drags over into the Six Flags parks. But I think the other cool thing about it is the whole park pass thing.
Yes.
Let's be honest, that really helped roller coaster enthusiasts being able to buy one pass for all of the parks. That was a very cool improvement. I was very happy they did that because I was afraid they weren't going to. Or maybe you would have to like select certain parks that you wanted to go to or something stupid like that. That sounds like a Six Flags thing that they would do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So being able to purchase the all parks passport was a huge improvement, I think, and I thought it was a very reasonable price too.
If anyone doesn't know what Gabe's talking about, of course, every theme park has their season pass. So what me and Gabe, they were having, was it a Labor Day sale?
Yes, Labor Day sale.
They were having a Labor Day sale, so you had to still like pick your quote unquote home park, and buy your season pass for that park. But then as an add-on, you could, what he called it was an all parks passport that would initially from the time of purchase get you into all of the Six Flags parks, and that also includes your parking, I believe. But then because of the merger, as of the 2025 season, you'll also be able to get into the Cedar Fair parks. And like Gabe said, this is going to be great for roller coaster enthusiasts. In fact, this trip that me and Gabe are doing over the weekend, we'll be able to use it for the Six Flags Over Georgia. Not for Carowinds, unfortunately, because it's not 2025 yet. But you know what? We'll only have to buy one ticket, which will be nice because, theme park tickets are not inexpensive. So,
yes. That being said, I know we've talked about a lot of sadness today. King Ka, Green Lantern, leaving our lives. But let me ask you this, okay? 2 coasters are leaving. What would you like to see in the replacement of those 2 rides? You can go one big one. You can do 2 smaller ones. You can do as outlandish and insane as you want to go, or you can be more realistic. I'm probably going to lean on the more realistic side, but I want to hear your opinion. What do you think they should put in? Or you can do more of like, what do you think they will put in if that's the route you want to go?
Since you're going to be more realistic about it, I'm just going to try and say what I would like to see there. And I'm trying to think of what they already have. Well, okay.
They have a park full of B&Ms.
Yes. So
they have
there you go.
A bunch of B&Ms. They have a bunch of B&Ms. They have one Intamin wooden coaster. They have one RMC Raptor track coaster, and they have one Intamin enclosed building family coaster.
Okay. So, as a person who doesn't know much about what's all available out there, but I do know Gabe talks about Vekoma sometimes and the stuff that they're doing over in Europe. So maybe having Vekoma come in and do something would be really cool. You already said that they're doing a multi-launch coaster, so I don't really see another launch coaster being an option. My first thought would be for something from RMC, but I'm afraid it would be too similar to El Toro. So I hesitate against
El Toro's Intamin, though.
I know, but still, I feel like, a good GCI Woody would be really nice. And I would love another Woody at that park. That would be really cool. And if they, with that like land plot, maybe they go back to the good old days and like make the most intense, crazy version of a wooden giant. That's what I want.
That's what you want?
That is my dream. One of my favorite rides is the Beast. And like, I love the Beast. I love everything that ride is about. But I also get the fact that it's an older coaster. It was built in the 70s. I want a new age wooden giant. That is what I want. I love Woodies.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm definitely going to go more on the realistic side. So the multi-launch that they're going to be putting in, I think is either going to be an Intamin. I really do. I know Cedar Fair does not like Intamin, does not like working with them, but it's still technically a Six Flags legacy park. Yep. I think the only manufacturer that could do the justice of replacing a King Dakar would have to be Intamin.
Of course.
The only other manufacturer that I think could even come close is the one you mentioned, Vekoma. But Vekoma's more of a, I don't know how to explain Vekoma, because I would say like they're the in between of B&M and Intamin. So like B&M is like the safe, capacity, reliable,
capacity, general,
and Intamin is like the crazy out of the box, insane ride. Although Mach has been doing some really cool stuff over in Europe as well with launch coasters. But I really truly think it's got to be an Intamin. I think it has to be a massive roller coaster to replace a King Dakar style ride. I would love to see like a swing launch, but like a 300-foot, 400-foot swing launch style with an insane back half layout after. That would be cool. I don't know if they're going to go that route though, but I do think it's going to be from Intamin, and I do think it's going to be if it's a multi-launch coaster, it's going to have a swing launch. It's going to have some crazy inversions, some intense airtime, stuff like that from an Intamin manufacturer, I think. And a new age Intamin, I think that would be really cool because there's not a ton of new age Intamins in the US yet.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, though, I really hope they have the idea of replacing two coasters with two coasters.
Yes.
So that being said, the coaster replace Green Lantern, I think would be a really, really smart decision to bring in B&M. I know they have a lot of B&Ms. However, there's only one new age B&M stand-up in the country, and that's down in Florida. So I think that would be a really cool thing. They could kind of still pay homage to the Green Lantern roller coaster, especially for a guy for me who really enjoyed it, and then put it in that same plot of land and do a new age stand-up coaster to replace the old age stand-up coaster. I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be a really awesome idea. And if they don't go that route, I feel like Mach would be a really cool roller coaster manufacturer hey, I just got a better idea.
Ooh.
What if they put in a Mach Extreme spinner?
Ooh.
Like the one out in like the Ride to Happiness or the Time Traveler out in Silver Dollar City. But like massive, like 200 feet tall, multiple launches, spinning cars. Okay, hold on. Now I'm getting a little outlandish. But hey, you never know. That is technically a multi-launch roller coaster. So,
exactly.
But yeah, so I really do think they should put another stand-up in. I really enjoyed the stand-ups. I really need to get on the one in Florida to see how different it is from the original design stand-ups. But I think that would be a really good way to replace two really awesome coasters.
Yeah, we have to think about when we talk about how bad Iron Wolf was, part of that was also the age of the coaster, but on top of that, there was also B&M's first coaster. So like they had to figure out their craft before they got good at it. So if it was a new age one, and obviously, I mean, they could do all kinds of things to try and help with redesigning the cars and stuff. And you said there's one down in Florida, so obviously that one isn't bad. Otherwise, it would be talking about badly.
Yeah, they built the prototype version down in Florida at SeaWorld Orlando. Okay. And the reception that it got was really well. It was very well received by everybody, enthusiasts and the general public.
Well, there you go.
So it's supposed to be a lot better than the original. I tell you what, you want to get really outlandish?
Of course.
What if they are taking out Green Lantern to just extend King Dakar's layout? Because they are butting up right next to each other. Those two coasters are. So what if they just put like they did with Top Thrill? They just put LSMs on the launch track, so they get rid of the hydraulic launch, but you still have that massive 400-foot, 456-foot top hat. But then you have a full extended layout after that massive airtime hill.
Now that would be ridiculous, but awesome.
And that butts over to the Green Lantern land, and that's why they removed Green Lantern, so they could put the extended layout over there. That'd be cool.
It would be awesome, but
that would be the biggest fuck you to Cedar Point too. It really would. To be like, fine, you're gonna redo your massive roller coaster, so are we. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That would put Great Adventure on the map as one of the best places to visit in the country, especially with the new Flash Vekoma that they're opening up next year. Add that to the lineup, plus an extended King Ka, plus a retract El Toro, because that needs to happen too. I mean, come on now. You're talking one of the best parks in the country if they did that.
Well, and I talked about adding an RMC, but they technically have an RMC. They have their Jersey Devil Raptor track. So they technically have an RMC. So, and I personally loved the Jersey Devil coaster. They just need to...
I thought it was really well done too. I thought it was one of the better ones that I've been on.
Exactly. The only thing they have to do is get new restraints on the damn thing, and it'll be perfect.
We're wrong though, because a lot of people say that ride sucks too. So maybe we're just weird. We like every roller coaster, but...
I was just about to say, apparently we just love what everybody hates and hates what everybody loves, which we could also say for you, because you don't like a certain RMC at a certain park. That
we're not gonna. No, that's exactly that's a swear word in this podcast. We don't say that name anymore.
Can of worms we're not gonna touch. It's gonna sit over on the shelf.
Yes. That'll be another 15 minutes of this episode if we dive into that.
Oh,
that being said, I think we gotta wrap this up here. We're starting to ramble a little bit.
Oh yeah, we're starting to get a little bit chatty now.
But yeah, so our next episode that we'll be releasing after this episode will be our first Trip Talks episode about Carowinds, Six Flags Over Georgia, and Fun Spot. Sam will get her very first ride on Fury 325. I am so excited to see her reaction of that.
I think he's more excited about it than I am.
Well, I get to get night rides on it, so I never got any night rides on it when I was there. So that's exciting. And then we get to go to Six Flags Over Georgia, which is gonna be all right. There's an RMC there that I'm really excited about.
Okay.
But the one I'm super excited for is Fun Spot Atlanta and getting on Airy Force One of the newest RMCs out there. Ooh. It's going to be a blast. It's supposed to be one of the most intense RMCs out there.
Which is at this tiny little park that has literally 2 coasters.
Dude, it makes zero sense. Don't even question it.
Okay.
Just get on it, ride it, accept it. Okay. All right.
Is it a ground up build or is it a remodel?
Nope, it's a ground up build and it's a full steel roller coaster. So it has the steel supports and the steel I-beam track.
Interesting. All right. But after that episode, we're going to start getting back into a battle episode, our bread and butter. And it's literally titled A Coaster You Want to Talk About But Can't Find a Reason to. So that'll be a fun little episode.
Yes. These are two coasters that we both love. We both enjoyed very, very much. They're personal favorites. But every time we try to theme an episode, it just never quite works out.
No, it doesn't. So that'll be fun. And then the special episode that I literally teased all last season, and then we never did.
Oh, we're terrible people, aren't we?
I tell the world if they just accept it, it'd make everybody's lives easier. But yes, our Son of Beast special. Finally. We are gonna sit down and actually do this damn thing. If I gotta hold Gabe at gunpoint, I will do it. We're doing the damn thing.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about there.
Oh, yeah. But with that, our first episode back, I think it's time to come to a close. As always, we're on the socials. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Instagram. It sounds like we're going to be starting a TikTok pretty soon. And then, of course, we have our email. It's linked in every episode. But if you're still not sure, it's coasterwarspodcast@gmail.com.
That being said, thanks for listening.